Yeah, well, I had a patient. I mean, I still have her. She's a great lady, and she was actually in the movie Fat Fiction. They interviewed her on there, and so she came in and she was on ungodly amount of medicine. Her husband, who's now passed away, he was totally non-compliant, and so he wouldn't do anything I said. Right, he liked his root beer and he was doing different. I'm like, look, this is going to cause you trouble. Super nice guy. And anyway, she came in and said, do you think I come out? And she was on. It's on the movie, but I think it was like 120 units 4 times a day of insulin.
Wow.
It was massive amounts, and she already had diabetic neuropathy, and she had health problems. And she sat down with me. She goes, "Do you think you can get me off insulin?" I go, "Well, I can, but you can. But if you're like your husband, I don't think." She goes, "No, I'm strong-willed. I'll do it." And so this lady came off all of her insulin. Like we got her in 3 months, we got every drop of insulin. So she's doing great. But she had already applied for a study at a big university, and then she went in and she sent me a note, and I still have it scanned in. It says that, "Doc, I went to see them, and they said I'm not eating enough carbohydrates, so they were going to put me on carbs 3 times a day, and add in insulin." I'm like, "What? You don't want to be part of this thing?" Because they would pay for all of her meds. I was like, "Don't be part of this. That's a ridiculous thing." It's like someone comes off alcohol and you go, "Okay, we need to give you 3 shots a day." Like, it doesn't make sense. Are you kidding me? Do you miss carbs that much? She goes, "No, not at all. I feel great. My neuropathy's better. Everything's getting better." I'm like, this is like, that just tells you the system. They go, "Okay, diabetes educator." And as a matter of fact, funny enough, when you said the diabetes educator, I happen to have 2 in my practice, and when low carb and keto started being the talk, and I asked them, like, they came in independently from 2 different hospital systems, and each one I would say, "How's things?" "Oh, it's brutal right now because all these crazy keto people are in there, and they're telling the diabetics not to eat sugar." And I go, "Why do you tell them to eat sugar?" "Well, they need so many carbs or their brain won't work." And they go through this whole rigmarole, and they're eating 6 times a day sugar. I was like, they have high sugars. You give them sugar 6 times a day? Like, it doesn't make sense. Have them eat 3 times a day at a minimum. I mean, at a maximum maybe. And they're getting less sugar that way. And they go, "No, it's not how it works." So I go, "Okay, let's put a CGM on you." So I got them both. I had samples of CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, and they both called me, 2 weeks later. I go, "Do the ADA's diet for a week, and then do what I'm saying for a week and see what happens." And they both call me like, "What do we do now? What do we do now?" Because that, like, their education is like, my education's wrong. It's obviously wrong. And so that's the hard part about it is changing the paradigm. And so that's what it takes. Like, "Hey, look, here's my patient data. Here you go."